Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel where we review anything and everything. And today we're just getting into a little bit of I guess I would classify this as just kind of a talking point for Marvel Legends and Hasbro. And just in regards to just sizes, I just kind of had this idea that I wanted to do a video on this because of a recent rant I had going on about certain upcoming figures that are coming out for Marvel Legends by Hasbro. So, and then I thought to myself, okay, well, the talking point was revolving around the whole Apocalypse thing that's coming out, which some people are pro. Again, some people think it's a cash grab. I think it's a cash grab, but I just didn't want to kind of go into, a lot of people started doing comparisons for, well, this is the size figure that you're getting for that, and so why it costs a certain price. And so this is not really necessarily this video is not about that per se, but it's really just about how large how large has the line been as far as figures without going to the oversized level. Obviously, we start going to the range of the new Sentinel. The 97 Sentinel was released recently. I see some videos popping up on that. I didn't end up ordering that, but nonetheless, that goes into a space of 22 inches. And obviously the HasLab's Galactus was, I think it was 33 inches. I want to say it was like maybe 33 inches or somewhere between 33 and 35 inches. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's 33 inches. And the Apocalypse is going to be 12 inches. And so I just kind of wanted to show at least the figures that I have. These are all my son's figures. I bought them for them, and they love playing with them. But nonetheless, I wanted to use these as a way to display, to show just the general kind of heights between what's kind of sort of normal large, and then extra large, and then obviously the largest normal figure you could probably buy, which is Adaptoid. So Black Panther here is just representing your regular 6-inch figure. That is obviously your standard figure. Now, though you will sometimes have some figures be, maybe a quarter of an inch, a little bit bigger, a little bit shorter. That's generally roughly the size range is 6 inches exactly for, I'm going to actually measure him. I have my tape measure with me right now. And he is pretty much, yes, exactly that 6 inches-ish, I would say, from where I'm able to eyeball. Now, you have some other figures that go into the, I'll call it the, I guess, medium-large size. And I'm just going to make up these terms as we go along, but medium-large size. And Hulk usually is the largest of those ones. But generally speaking, I would say that's anything from about maybe 7.5 inches up to 8.5, because Hulk is actually 8.5 inches. And so if I'm not mistaken, he's 8.5 inches. I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, the Odin figure, now I never took him outside of his box, but I'm not sure how big he is, but I think he's obviously shorter than Hulk, but I don't know if he goes from 7.5 inches. I'm not sure. The most recent regular size Apocalypse, which I had displayed on here from the retro card, is 8 inches, or he's just shy of 8 inches. He's like 7.75 or something of that sort. So like I said, you have Odin, you have that Apocalypse. There's Mephisto's coming out soon. I believe he's 7.5 inches, if I'm not mistaken. He's a lot more slender, but he's nonetheless pretty tall. But Hulk generally is like the highest. You might have a few others who might come in within that range, but Hulk is generally the highest of the kind of I would say medium large figures, maybe. Like I said, I'm just making this as I go along in terms of the size. And so somebody like Venom now goes into this category of large, large medium. I'll call that. We'll call it large medium. So if Hulk's like a medium size, now I'm getting twisted with the sizes. So, but if he's in that ballpark range, whatever we're gonna call that, we'll call regular. We'll call it. Matter of fact, we'll do like this. we'll label them off of like some fantasy games and how they do it. So you have like regular medium, this would be large, and then this could be considered huge. So we'll say Venom is in the category of huge. And Venom is 10 and a half inches. And we'll say that Venom goes into that category of huge. I would honestly go and say that the difference between, for a character to go into another size category, I would say they need to be at least an inch taller on the smaller level. Once you start getting really big, then obviously the differences will be like, probably a larger gap. So I'm not sure how big Ant-Man was, for example, but I think Ant-Man, who I know is not as big as Galactus, would probably fall within the same range as Sentinel, even if they were like 2 inches apart from each other. But on the smaller scale, those small differences mean more because you're on the smaller scale. So you have Venom here at 10 and a half inches. Then you have Adaptoid at 12 inches. So he's definitely going to that next level of large. I would kind of say you could group Venom and Adaptoid into the same category, even though Venom is definitely on the smaller end. If they were in the same category, I would definitely group them in the smaller end. But I for the most part would say that they are two separate categories, because like I said, anything below 12 inches, I think is really distinguished by an inch in size for the most part. So I would say, and most of them usually fall on the half mark, as far as ones that are a little bit bigger. So like I said, Hulk is 8.5. Sometimes you have characters with 7.5. Venom is 10.5, but Adaptoid is 12. Now also too, in a nice reference is Adaptoid is the size of Apocalypse. Now I'm just gonna little sidebar, a little bit of shade, but as far as that conversation went about Apocalypse being, justified his price and because it comes with a bunch of accessories or whatever the case is. Adaptoid is 12 inches tall. Incredible detail on him, because he's as detailed as like Captain America with like the little fine grain. I've done a review video on him, so you can check that out if you want to get all close up with it. But a lot of fine grain in his outfit, a lot of details, all that shifting, patterns and textures all over his body. So incredible detail, that goes without saying. 12 inches. This guy goes for $32 on Amazon right now. So like, I purchased him because I wanted my sons to have like a really big villain. But his price for what you get is ridiculous. And he comes with 2 really big accessories, a huge Thor hammer and a huge Captain America shield. But anyway, that was just a little side shade there in regards to, people saying the value of figures that are that tall. You can have a figure that is filled out, detailed, solid build, articulation for $32 at 12 inches, a foot tall. So I think that that's definitely somewhere. Yeah. Anyway, so what would be interesting though, and they would never do this though, but this is a little sidebar. Imagine that they did the Sentinels with that type of detail. Now I know that they did, and I reviewed on the channel before, the Titan series Sentinel that's from X-Men 97, 14 inches if I'm not mistaken. This is 12 inches and the detail on it is incredible. I can imagine easily if they did something like a Sentinel with that same level of detail, same level of articulation, but maybe came with a couple accessories too, because this comes with a couple accessories. But even if it's just 12 inches and they didn't make it to 14, I'd be fine with that level of detail. But yeah, so it can be done for the prices that I definitely want to say that. But anyway, this video is about size comparison. So I just wanted to do this kind of little brief size comparison, being that these were the tallest ones that I have that are within the Hasbro line, not including any other color line or anything like that. And I'm not also including, even though I believe this is from Hasbro, the Titan series, I think it's from Hasbro. I'm not really sure, but I don't want to include those because even though that's 14 inches, the Sentinel is 14 inches. I don't really know, like I said, if that's if that's Hasbro, and if it's not, I don't want it to be a part of this in their lineup, so I'm not really too sure. But also too, that has a different level of articulation, so it's not even on this level in terms of detail and this and that. So these are the size ranges on that. Anything below like huge, like ultra huge or gargantuan or whatever you want to label it, whatever you want to call it as. But after that is when you start going into that frame of above 12 inches. I would say obviously you're gonna have a big jump. You're going up to that Sentinel, the X-Men 97 Sentinels, 22 inches. I believe the Sentinel from HasLabs was even bigger than that. I think it was maybe something like 26 inches. Not too sure. Galactus, like I said before, is like 33 inches. I'm not sure what Ant-Man was. I want to say that he probably was like maybe 28 inches ish or somewhere in that range. So that's when you start getting into a lot of the really, really big figures. But these are the ones that you could get for, you know, like more standard. Venom is definitely overpriced at $60. But if you're looking for a cheap, like a more affordable, just big character just to have in your lineup, get that Adaptoid while you can. He's only like $32 on Amazon. And the Hulk, I don't know if this one is available anymore. He was in the double pack with Bruce Banner, but he's my favorite Hulk build, more so even than the Maximum Series Hulk, because I'm not a fan of having the articulated toes, and I love his face, the way they did with his face. So he is very awesome to me. But anyway, once again, I rambled on too much. Put your comments down below. What are your guys' thoughts in terms of the talking points as far as like the size ranges, and in terms of where the upper size ranges go? You guys can also let me know if my estimates were correct with the other ones that I don't have here on display, like Ant-Man, the Sentinels. I know the Sentinel guarantee is 22 inches, but the older one from HasLabs, I'm not too sure. You can correct me on that. Correct me on the Galactus. Correct me on the Ant-Man. And in addition, add also inside the comments, what do you guys think in terms of like, you know, size to price ratio? What do you guys think? What are your thoughts on that? I think that they can make more larger figures for cheap. I mean, like I said, I don't know what this Adaptoid came out as base wise, but he's $32 right now for 12-inch figure. I mean, like there's a lot you could do with that. There's a lot that could be opened up with that, at least in my thoughts. You could easily start going with larger figures even than that and not cost that much more. If he's $32, make him $60, which is the price of what the Venom is, which is way too overpriced. But make him make a figure who's that, add an extra $30 into him. Can you now double his size? Maybe not double size, double up his overall size, meaning his height might go up, say, to 16 inches, but he has so much more girth and he's like thicker and he's like, you know, just beefy. Can you do that for just an extra $30? I mean, I would imagine so, because honestly, you know, the proof is just in the pudding that look how much you're getting for, you know, that figure in itself. So what are your thoughts on that in terms of what Hasbro could do for their prices and stuff like that? I know it's always a hotly debated topic as far as like everyone being overcharged, but sometimes it's nice taking a look at what's out there in terms of what can be, you know, done. And as I mentioned before, this is not supposed to really be a bashing video, but also just really talking about heights, like I said, and just the wave of the line and whatnot. As always, you guys like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.